All right, Tampa Bay Bucks. They went out and retained Chris Godwin, Levante David, kind of business as usual for the Tampa Bay Bucks of late. The big names, they come back. They obviously went out and signed Hassan Reddick as well to rush the passer off the edge. Not too much there, 1 year, $14 million. Not much to speak of. I mean, didn't really lose anyone. Added a little bit. Not much to dislike here about Tampa Bay Bucks, in my opinion.
All I'll say is that I hope Levante David gives his body up for science when he's gone, because he is a Terminator, unlike many other that have ever played in the National Football League. We're going to talk about Godwin later on in our show. There's a little teaser. So if you're a Tampa Bay fan, if you're a fan of people being nice to the Pirates, then we'll do that later on. But I'm going to give it, for these guys, I'm going to be giving it a C+. Which to me is passing, because that's what I got in school, and that's a good job. Again, huge deal with Godwin, and we're going to talk about it more later. But bringing a guy like Levante David back is really important for this defense. Stalwart, been there forever. That's important stuff.
I went B+. I think just good. Obviously, this isn't pushing them over the edge. They're not in the kind of cap situation. Like, they did a great job rebounding from the Brady, all the dead money that was left after he retired, and then kind of getting on to another quarterback, but also like keeping that roster semi-intact while managing.
It looks the same
situation. So they can't really go out and be big spenders the way some of these teams that we've discussed so far. And again, they are paying a quarterback, not top of the money, but a lot of money. And that obviously limits your team building. But yeah, Levante David, I think he's inching closer to, I think we may have discussed this last fall, or at least I tweeted about it. I said, that 2012 draft class, it probably had 3 guys who could be Hall of Fame linebackers. 2, I think for sure, Luke Kuechly, Bobby Wagner. But with each passing year that Levante David plays well, it's like, would you have rather had Luke Kuechly's career or Levante David? Like, if you go back and draft him, obviously Kuechly has peaked much better. You're 6 years on now and a Super Bowl in where Levante David has continued to play at a darn near Pro Bowl level. I don't know. It's a conversation. I think last year
no Super Bowl for Luke Kuechly. I think the best he did was it? Yeah, he played Broncos in Super Bowl 50, and but they lost. And your guy Levante David, some better experience in the big game. So I think with the longevity, you got to go Levante.
The fun thing about the conversation is I don't think that the Seahawks, I don't think that the Panthers, and I don't think that the Bucks would trade their guy for any of the others. They wouldn't. They would say, if you go back and drafted them, all 3 would be like, no, I want that guy in that draft class, which was like, that's how you know it's a special draft class.
In the Super Bowl, Luke Kuechly had 10 tackles and a sack.
I beat him in cornhole, though, at Rosedale.
You did?
2018, his bye week. I didn't actually recognize him. I asked him if I could have next game, walked up, introduced myself. I'm like, hey, I'm Mike. Nice to meet you. He's like, I'm Luke. I'm like,
you just thought he was a finance bro?
I'm like, you're Luke Kuechly. Dude, he's not. I mean, he is not big. He's like obviously super compact. He just looked like a guy that lifts.
He looks like a guy who goes to a CrossFit gym.
Yes.
And isn't on like T. He's just a guy that lifts weights, probably eats clean, goes to the park with his kids on the weekends, and loves football.
Cincinnati legend. Cincy legend. All right, let's get to the Atlanta Falcons, who relatively quiet. Signed a couple of budget guys, Devon Diablo to play linebacker, Leonard Floyd to play defensive end there, obviously reuniting with Raheem Morris, where he had his best seasons out in LA.
That'll be awesome.
A lot of retaining, though. Jake Matthews, Mike Hughes, Taquan Graham, but then they lost Drew Dahlman. And Justin Simmons.
Can we do an appreciation, like a little tidbit here for Jake Matthews? Because if you're a fan of football, if you're a fan of offensive line, first off, the lineage is second to none. Okay, so the minute this guy got off the boat in the National Football League, all the eyes were on him. All the expectations were on this guy with that last name. The ability that he has to just go out there and quietly handle his business in such a boring vanilla ice cream, under the radar fashion is awesome. The guy's been in the league forever now. He just continues to show up and play. Good on the Atlanta Falcons for taking care of their guy, Jake Matthews. It's a real rarity in this day and age to play on the same team your entire career. And to do so without any hiccups, without any distractions. Jake Matthews is that. The only hiccup distraction was the holding call against my older brother when the Falcons lost the 28-3 Super Bowl. But outside of that, Jake Matthews has been a real awesome dude. A guy I've never met, but I feel like we'd have a lot in common in terms of things to talk about with offensive line and our families. Shout out to Jake Matthews. And Leonard, great dude. Somebody get him a couple cheeseburgers. Atlanta's the best city for him because they be eaten in Atlanta. And Leonard Floyd, I was there when we drafted him, Chicago. Physical specimen, can cover guys sideline to sideline, can run down any running back on wide zone, inside zone. He's willing to get in there. He has the length to play at the point of attack, but his rushing ability is what really sets him apart. He's a very small target. It'll be a lot of fun to watch him in Atlanta.
Going back to Matthews for just a second, that's like, when they say, I feel like it's a cliche in the draft, 10-year starter. You're drafting the guy 10-year starter.
This is the guy.
Jake Matthews. I actually joked, Jabricka Ferguson was the prototype for that because he literally played a decade. He played only 10 years.
Andy
New York
Heck
Jets
guy.
Retired. And then that was that. But it does apply to offensive line. I think offensive line uniquely, and why we talk about in free agency, it's tough to find them. They're uniquely loyal compared to other positions. They are not versus wide receivers, versus cornerbacks, versus defensive ends. They don't chase the bag. They don't hit free agency nearly as often. So if you want those 10-year starters, you want the guys who are going to be with your franchise for forever, usually you got to draft them.
So it was Luke Jokel and then Jake Matthews, or were they together?
Was that the same draft? I think that was a different draft. It was that you're talking. The Jokel was your draft.
Matthews was
Lane
2014
Johnson.
Draft.
Matthews
Jokel
was
2013.
Yeah.
So they played the
that
same
was
position.
Eric Fisher, Luke Jokel, then Lane Johnson was 2014.
Eric Fisher, dude.
Who else? I think there's another tackle in 2014. I gotta look this up now. It's gonna drive me nuts if I don't. Anytime I think of a draft thing,
drafted offensive tackles.
I can't just let it go.
Greg Robinson.
Shout
out
my
to
God.
Greg Robinson. And just a note to the kids.
That's who it was.
You know what? Stay out of trouble. Especially if you have the opportunity to go earn a couple $100 million just going to push people around for a living. Just stay away from the other stuff, man.
I feel like the 2014 draft is my most forgotten draft because 2013 was
Taylor Lewan, 2014. Cyrus Kwanjo, another guy that got into some trouble, I think, but a great athlete.
It was the wide receiver draft 2014 where they had Mike Evans, Odell Beckham, Brandon Cooks.
Yes.
Kelvin Benjamin, like a ton of wideouts going in that draft. But I always forget about it because it was like I first started actually doing draft analysis in 2015, like actually scouting and watching guys. So it was the first year before I did that. And there was obviously Blake Bortles was like the top quarterback. I just always forget about that one. And the 2013, I go back and look at all the time because it was such a bad draft. I'm like, I go back and look at that first round, but I rarely go back and look at the 2014 first round.
That's really effed up that you would say that the NFL draft in 2013 was a bad draft. We're going to go down it really quickly. Eric Fisher, Luke Jokel. Stop me when we get to a stud. Eric Fisher, Luke Jokel, Deion Jordan, Lane Johnson.
Stud.
Ezekiel Ansah had stud written all over him.
He was fine.
I mean,
for a top 5 pick, you have your studs.
Markevius Mingo, I always scratched my head about. Jonathan Cooper, nice guy. I trained with him, but I was always pissed at him because I always assumed that he was one of the people that stole the money from me because he got drafted 7th and he was the same position as me. Tavon Austin, shout out to Tavon Austin's high school highlight tape, college highlight tape. D. Milliner, Chance Warmack invented rolling your jersey up and checking out the old belly, shining out the old belly. Great dude, huge anime fan. DJ Fluker. I took a visit with DJ Fluker on our pre-draft tour, and he slept in his suit, and his feet hung about 1.5 feet off the other bed that was in the room. And he was ready for the meeting at like 8 p.m. the night before for 8 a.m. the following morning.
That's DJ one of the biggest humans. He just had like a massive head.
Sheldon Red, yeah, dude. Biggest head, DJ Fluker.
Yeah.
He was like the guy from he reminded me of one of the guys from The Longest Yard, like where they just casted the most outlandish looking human beings.
Yes.
He would have been one of those guys. Sheldon Richardson had a lot of twitch, had a lot of things going on.
That's a hit.
Star Latulele was a good player. My neck still hurts thinking about him. Vaccaro was a good player. EJ Manuel, Jarvis Jones, Eric Reed, Justin Pugh. Yeah, EJ Manuel is fantastic on the ACC network. And he does the college football drive time radio with the running back from LSU. And
he did,
Jeff
though.
Schwartz.
He had this one. He said on air or something like, if he got drafted by someone else, he did that thing. Whereas, like, if I was drafted in this situation, it would have been, still playing. And it's like, would you have?
Hey, man, you never know. Situations are big. Justin Pugh and then some asshole named Kyle Long. I think this is the real sweet spot here. Justin Pugh, Kyle Long, Tyler Eifert. Tyler Eifert was an absolute dog. This is like that.
He ended the Pro Bowl. Tyler Eifert.
This is, those TikToks where there's two people talking about somebody, and I'm like, he was an absolute, and then it cuts into just Tyler Eifert highlights with like heavy metal. That's what I need from our viewers, because Tyler Eifert was that good. Trufant, Sharif Floyd, Bjorn Werner. I got my hand swiped by him in a walkthrough at the Senior Bowl. No. It was Margus Hunt. It was the other white D end. Swiped my hands and laughed so hard in the walkthrough. It made me look bad. Dayton Jones. He had some skill.
Packers legend.
DeAndre Hopkins, 27.
There you
crazy.
That was
Cordero Patterson may end up being like a gold jacket special teams guy. Travis Frederick was on his way to a gold jacket right alongside Zach Martin. Alec Ogletree was a good player. Matt Elam. That was the first round. I wouldn't say the worst.
I would say the worst. That was pretty bad. I mean, like every first round has all pros and Pro Bowlers, right? That's like where you should find those guys. That one.
There's a few. There's some Hall of Famers in there, dude.
There's some Hall of Famers. Yeah. There's most draft.
There should be, I guess.
Yeah. All right.
Falcons, Panthers now.
Saints. We got Saints up next. Sorry.
Okay. Saints.
Going down
such a little insignificant blurb here. No offense.
Yeah. Saints, they retain Chase Young, retain Juwan Johnson, retain Nathan Shepard, Isaac Yiadom. Those are your resignings. They went out, though, and got Justin Reed, lost Paulson Adebo, traded for Devon Godshaw. Going back. I believe he played at LSU. It sounds like he should have played at LSU.
Will Clapp.
Will Clapp played at LSU.
I love that name.
It's like what Jeb Bush asked people to do.
Like when your buddy says, would.
Please clap. All right. Saints. We've hit them a zillion times. Just from like a pure strategy perspective, I give them a D. I give them a D. This is no way to win a championship. It's a great way to go 8-9. If they have a great chance of going 8-9 this year, freaking sick. Can't wait. Now, I mean, like it is. They're going to go 8-9, 9-8, and obviously they need to draft better, and that's where any improvement's going to come in the coming years. But man, they're just pushing themselves to the limit continually. And at some point, like the guys you're pushing it to the limit to, I mean, like they've hit that point. The guys they did it with, Ryan Ramczyk, Cameron Jordan, Demario Davis, Marshawn Lattimore out the door. The guys they've like really done it with, and Derek Carr as well. Bills come and due, and they're not making an impact on your roster. So I don't know where this improvement's coming from. Obviously, injuries were a massive factor in their lack of success a year ago. But Kellen Moore coming to town, first year as head coach. We'll see. The floor for this is so low, or the ceiling for this is so low. The floor is pretty low too. But I got to give it a D, unfortunately.
Yeah, we're going double D here for the Saints. I mean, they've made their own bed, and they got to sleep in it. So figure it out, Saints. Figure it out. You got a new regime there. You have an opportunity to make some changes. Obviously, we talked about this not being a one-year turnaround plan, and the understanding has to be in that building that we're trying to build something. You know, the old adage that you hear from new coaches on bad teams, whether it be skill-wise or structure-wise. And unfortunately, they got a little bit of both, and they're going to have to figure out how to get out of this basement, because the floor is the basement right now.
Floor is the basement. All right, on to the Panthers, who obviously made a big money deal early on, re-signing or extending J.C. Horn, 4 years, $100 million, making him at the time, I believe, the highest paid corner. That obviously got topped by Derek Stingley Jr. Went out and signed Turk Wharton from the Kansas City Chiefs, Trayvon Merrick from the Las Vegas Raiders to play safety, and then Rico Dowdle because obviously Jonathan Brooks, after tearing his ACL again, that might be curtains for him. Lost Xavier Woods, so no real big losses for them. I don't know. I would B-. It's just Turk Wharton plus, adds to your interior pass rush. Obviously, if you get the guy you saw in the Super Bowl, he's going to be an absolute steal. But, $15 million a year, worth the chance, in my opinion, because he's going to get to play a little more 3-tech there in that defense with Derek Brown, obviously, at nose. And then Trayvon Merrick, good player, but you went top of the market for him. And anytime you go top of the market for a safety, it's just like, it's really hard for that guy to
play up to that number.
Give you ROI, shall we
Look,
say.
I'll tell you about Tershawn Wharton.
The receiver room.
Tershawn Wharton is a guy, we call him Turk. I guess his mama called him Turk because he had turkey legs. He's got these big old legs. He's got a low cut waist in terms of natural leverage. So as a rusher, he is in your sternum quickly. He has incredible lateral explosion. So he can, threaten inside, get to your outside quickly. He's a guy that can get swallowed up a little bit in the run game in double teams. But if you're looking for that interior guy to have the real juice and production we talked about, put him on the field and let him eat. Because on third downs, there's not many guys I would less rather block than Turk Wharton. Especially when you're going against pig after pig after pig inside. And then he comes in. He's a running back that happens to be 265. Like if you saw this guy walk by you in the locker room in his gray shorts and no shirt, you'd be like, that's the biggest running back I've ever seen in my life. Well, they're like, wait, he's about to bull rush you in 45 minutes. So get your shit right. That's Turk Wharton. I wish him nothing but the best. Great to see a guy like that get a payday.